Make a motion,
Okay.
vote it, and let's go ahead, if you don't mind.
I'm going to do it right after
Yeah, I did
consent
not,
agenda.
some reason that escaped me, putting on the agenda.
Okay. Do you want to make a motion
Oh, yours, though.
To, how should I word it?
to, or swear in?
Yeah, swear in.
Swear in is the
The
term.
discussion was held during the last board meeting, so yeah, just the official swearing in of Mitch Moore for the board position that we discussed last
And
meeting.
it's board position number 1.
One,
One.
correct.
Okay. All right. Good evening. Welcome to the March DLWID board meeting. And roll call. We have Steve Brown is an excused absence. And other than that, it looks like we have everybody here, including our newest board member, which we will get to right after we approve the consent agenda. Any comments on the consent agenda? Any changes, additions? Well, I will move we approve the consent agenda. Are we waiting on the financials since Steve is not here?
They just came in. You can wait on them to vote on them. They came into me earlier Monday, and I do apologize. I had intended to get the board packet out much earlier than about 2 o'clock this afternoon. But
Well, I wouldn't do it regardless of when I got it without Steve here, so.
yeah, it has been gone over. If you'll notice some of those things, we've adjusted the percentage amounts in comparison to our budget versus expenditures. So
Okay.
I sat down with Cameron and went through a few different things. So we should have that in pretty decent shape right now.
Okay, so I'm going to ask that we move that off of the consent agenda and approve those when Steve gets back, both February and March at the April meeting. Is that cool?
Sounds good?
Okay. Are you guys okay with that?
Second it.
Okay. So I will move to approve the consent agenda with the exception of the financials.
Second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Oh, Kathy.
Oh, I
sorry.
did, I'm sorry.
She's quiet. All right, so now we have the pleasure of inducting Mitch Moore in, and Kathy is going to make our motion.
I would like to move that we swear in Mitch Moore to take over the position on the board, position number 1.
I second that. Motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye? Aye. Do you want him to, do you want him to read this aloud?
You know what? Let's do that and have him sign it just for protocol, if that's all right. Please.
I think I had to do that, so you have to.
Yeah.
Okay. I, Mitchell Moore, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America, the Constitution of the State of Oregon, the laws thereof, and will faithfully and honorably demean myself to the office of Devils Lake Water Improvement District Director, to which I have been appointed to the best of my ability.
Amen. Thank you, Mitch, and welcome. It's
Thank you.
exciting.
Sign it.
All right, committee reports, special projects and events committee. Okay,
Our major project in that committee right now has been the fishing derby, and given the fact that there's a lot of management involvement with that, I've been heading up a decent portion of it. Everything is moving along great right now. We have over 50 registrants already that are paid and ready. We have two sponsors that have already sent in the checks for sponsorships, for bronze sponsorships, in addition to Lincoln City, who was a gold sponsor, who gave us more than $1,500 to help with the event. Everything from porta potties to traffic barricades and all kinds of stuff. So Lincoln City Parks and Rec has been instrumental in helping us get this put together and helping us with it. So there are at least 3 or 4 more confirmed sponsors that are out there. I'm just waiting on getting the everything in to get them published. That is, like I said, that's coming along great. All the permits are in. The State Marine Board permit was approved this month. Our Lincoln City Special Events permit, of course, was approved last month. Still waiting on the OCVA OCVA grant that I put in a few weeks ago. I'm not really sure what their timeline is on that, but just regardless, that would be extra funding for our event if we can get it together. I've had staff working on several different things. Eric Johnson, our PIO, has been doing an outstanding job with our Facebook and lining up the Eventbrite and everything. A lot of other legwork that's been going on. Alex been everything from T-shirt prices to trying to get sponsors and things here, as well as, you know, all the other important things we do, like sampling and monitoring as well. So I'm really happy with everybody coming together, and our special events committee as well. Just everybody coming together on this. There's been a lot of interest. Now that's the great news. The transitional news, I won't call it bad because I don't want to be negative, is that we're in the middle of the coronavirus catastrophe, pandemic, whatever they're coining it right now. But it's kind of putting us on day to day as far as our event. It's coming up pretty quick on May 2nd, so we don't have a whole lot of time left. We're talking, 8-ish weeks, and we really don't know. Our state governor has said, gatherings over 250 people, which this would definitely be over 250 people.
But that's within 3 feet, not having 3 feet of.
Yeah, so like you're
contact,
saying,
so.
geared more towards that. But I just had
Our lake is bigger than that.
I know. But I'm having discussions right now with, Lincoln City and our Parks and Rec people. They even have really big things that are very important to the area online, like our Kite Festival and things that brings 50,000 or more people in as a heavily weighted tourist economy that we are. So they're in the same boat we are right now, and obviously being one of our main sponsors and things too, we're all just kind of holding our breath at the moment. What the district is doing is still forging on and planning as we would, hoping that it whatever ends and everything will kind of pick up as it goes. I imagine sometime the next week or two we're going to have to probably call that. And when you get down to the point of where are we gonna, we're gonna print T-shirts and hats or whatever. I had some good conversations earlier with the committee that maybe we just won't put the year on the T-shirts and hats.
I never recommend to do that anyhow.
Mary had a great idea. I think that might be the way we go. But as far as the update on that, I mean, everything's great except for the pandemic.
Okay. I do want to make a clarification because I've had a few people ask me and I talked to you about it, but just public meeting purpose. Originally, we talked about 100 registrants and the paper printed 200. Or no, sorry, the opposite.
Yes.
We talked about 100, the paper printed 100, but it is actually 200 registrants.
Correct. I spoke with our insurance provider, and they said that we can handle up to 200, given the fact that a decent portion of those are probably going to be children, which we're registering for free, 12 and under. 200 is pretty manageable for us.
Cool.
So.
Okay, I just wanted to approve that.
And something else, just the point of clarification for a public meeting, is a lot of people, it's been brought to my attention, they say it's just up to $10,000 in prizes. There's almost twice that. There's up to $20,000 in prizes and 10 fish out there. So it's not one fish out there with a tag for $10,000. There's a little bit more opportunity depending on how you want to look at the odds.
Okay. All right. Nothing else with special projects. I'm assuming that's all consuming right now. Okay, Save Our Shoreline Water Monitoring. Here she comes.
All right. We had a meeting at 3 o'clock at OCCC. Everybody was there. We're doing a shoreline planting project. If the people we met with on Sunday can get their application in, we'll be doing that planting probably in April to give them enough growing time. That will be a good project. The fishing derby, we're planning on a plant sale or giveaway. If the Boy Scouts, who have a booth also there, if they sell a floating garden, 4x4 we hope, we'll donate 12 plants from our plants, so that'll be kind of fun. And then we'll just sell the plants for $1 each. So Josh is going to order some number of plants for us, native plants, to put on the shorelines of Devil's Lake. Let's see. We talked about the Thompson Creek sediment. We're blaming logging on that. We tried for an election of new officers. Everyone opted out. So we're going to leave it as a floating leadership. So you may not know who's coming up to report.
I think, do you have to have, according to the bylaws of the committee, does there have to be a chair? You have a chair identified on paper, though?
Well, it's been me.
Okay.
All right.
Perfect.
But we're probably, yeah.
She doesn't want to do it.
I will look into it, and
Yeah.
I've got a couple of
Josh
people I
will
can
let us
kind of
know.
ask and see, they may be
I
interested.
think by
so.
our bylaws, we do have to have a chair and a secretary. So,
Okay.
The secretary can be a cell phone
yeah,
by
that's,
law. The chair, probably a person.
A person. Okay, that's it. Any questions?
no,
All
thank
right.
you. So the
Thank you.
plant sale is going to be at the fishing
At the
derby?
fishing derby.
Cool. All right. District projects and operations.
All
Oh, I
right.
have a question. I know that they're not a committee anymore, and Mitch, you might know this. Did Brian get together a committee? Or I know he was trying to get together a meeting to talk about
Yeah,
continuing on the
he's
sewer
trying-
project.
He's trying to reformulate it as a private entity.
Citizen committee.
I think that he's had success in finding a date at this particular time.
Oh, but it hasn't happened.
I don't believe they actually,
'Cause I know,
I'm
was
not
it last
sure at
week
this
or the week
point.
before that he was trying to get people there,
right,
but
and
couldn't.
I don't know
Okay.
that they actually can look and see, but I don't believe they actually had a meeting at
Okay.
that time, because I think Irv wasn't available, and
Okay,
so.
all right, just checking. All right, back to you, Josh.
All right. You still don't get tired of hearing of me. The aeration project's been great. We haven't had any issues. Alex and I have both been going out intermittently a couple times a week and checking the compressor and making sure it's fine. I've been out on the water a couple of times. All the boils, bubble columns that are coming up from the diffusers look fine. I don't see any issues. None of them look like they're disconnected or any problems like that. I'm still waiting. I left a message earlier today. I'll be getting with John Tucci to get him down here, hopefully. And I spoke with Bill, and Bill's offered to offer his equipment, pressure washer, the gear like we had set up last year, and have John come down to help us locate and maintenance the diffusers. So that worked out pretty well last year. They did a great job at it. So we're looking to set the same thing up this year for maintenance-wise. But other than that, Bill had changed the oil and everything, compressor just a couple months ago, changed out that hose that blew in the ditch, and I haven't seen any issues with either the new equipment or any of the shoreline stuff or in water at the moment. So we're in good shape there, other than our maintenance program, which we're working on. The vegetation management is coming along. I am waiting on Kyle from Aquatechnics to get back with us to get that on the schedule. I'll be following up with him again because I really need to get a date locked down with things going on, and I realize this virus situation has affected literally everything in the world at this point. So
I had a question with that, with the fishing derby, because I was looking back in my notes, and originally we were thinking that we would spray in April or May. Should we wait until after the fishing derby?
not necessarily. Any of the materials or treatments we're going to be using have a very, very low toxicity as far as any effects on fish or shellfish or anything, aquatic wildlife. And furthermore, most of the issues that I've seen are going to be treated in a lower flow time when the lake is lower, and a lot of it is up on the banks. Most of it is kind of in that semi-submerged area, and you can even see that kind of behind the hotels over by Vivian's, where it's you know, it's an emergent type plant on the shoreline, so you don't really see it quite as aquatic. You don't see it growing on the bottom like some of these eel grasses and things that come up 12 feet. They're kind of really, it's advantageous for them to have that kind of sunlight on the shoreline in that mixed area. So.
Okay.
And actually, as a side point, I spoke with Mary about that earlier in the committee meeting. We're going to collect some of that, any other invasives and or native plants we can, and kind of have them out in tubs like they do at some conferences and things, so people can identify them, know what they look like.
Right.
I mean,
That'd be
a
a
picture's
great
worth
idea.
1,000 words, but if it's in a tub in front of you, you got a pretty good idea. So we've got some good opportunities there if we can continue with that event. But they will be, we'll be getting that on schedule here very shortly, so they're aware.
And it won't like stink when it's dying?
No, not really. I mean, you're not, the areas we have now are way under our 1%.
Okay.
You know, of our shoreline, way under 1% of our shoreline, honestly.
I just don't want to invite a bunch of people to our lake and have a stinky mess
Yeah.
from.
Well, and you know, and that's a good concern when you're talking about things like we had 10 or 15%, you know, if we're spraying 30% of the shoreline or removing or going to have that kind of decomposition, but what we're looking at is really less than 1%. I mean, they're very spot treatments. It's been very limited. If we refer back to that report that Aquatechnics put together about a month or two ago, I think it was about 2 months ago now, a little more, but at any rate, it's really concentrated around those boat ramps. It's very spot treated. We've caught it very early, so that's our hope, is that, you know, we've caught it near these areas where it could have even been for a couple of years, but it's been prolific enough for us to really notice now. And with you know, the reduction in or absence of grass carp and things in the lake that were previously kind of controlling that, now we're seeing it come up in these spots. So. Grass carp regulations was an action item. I have not done any work on that this past month. One fishing related thing at a time, I guess. But that is on that'll remain on the action item. It'll be a conversation as we move forward. If we need to approach that for vegetation management, right now we're in a good place with that, like I just described, as far as what we're looking at treating and dealing with. So we're going to run with that and see how it goes. However, if it starts to get more out of control, then we have more than the stage set to have that conversation. So the Airstream Pro Shoreline Aerator has been removed from service at the moment. We've had some issues with the breaker and the electrical system on it kicking on and off after we replaced the new motor. Bill's been going back and forth with John on that, and John's been calling it's a company in Italy or something to that effect from this specific type of electric motor that's on the unit. So we're trying to figure out at the moment where that's going to happen, if they can fix it, you know, just kind of where we are with that at the moment. Fortunately, you know, we already have the lake bottom system in, and that unit, if nothing else, was an absolutely great adjunct to show us what aeration could do, you know, in our lake particularly. But hopefully we will have it up and running again soon. That's the goal, is to get a remedy and get it back in the water in any of these pockets and more concealed bays where we've been using it. The flood protection project is moving along as well. We'll be going to conditional use permit hearing with Lincoln City on April 21st of next month. If anyone would like to come out in support of that project and program, Tom and I will be getting together a brief PowerPoint that shows some of the flooding issues around 1st and 3rd Street, some of the historical work that's been done in that waterway. Alex has been working on some of that photo documentation right now. We'll hopefully have a little bit of that available as well. You know, photos we've even taken out of our storage unit that are 3x5s from Kodak cameras that shows 40 years of history of us maintaining this waterway. So,
Cool. Are you going to put together like a PowerPoint presentation for that?
oh yeah. That is April 21st.
And what
It would be
time?
6 p.m. here at the Planning Commission. The rest of this is ongoing action items. We are still monitoring the lake flow. We've had not a lot of change as far as the channels as we've seen the past couple years. We haven't seen any of the deposition going out. We've seen more of it creeping up farther past those areas, you know, going out a couple hundred yards now from where it historically is. We have not seen, the good fortunate part of that is we have not seen a lot of woody debris come in, which is one of our larger projects last year, is getting 30 tons of wood or more out of the channel that was blocking it. So that's a positive on that, but we will continue to monitor as we have been, and that includes photo documentation in the 1st and 3rd Street areas, the Deer River Channel, our dam impoundment, lake levels that are taken every week and every day, and water quality measurements. So we've also, as a side point, have been able, with some additional staff, been able to take on some additional monitoring, which is great. So I have Alex going out at least a couple times a week now with a safety disc, taking some clarity measurements in the lake, which are super important to us as we move through certain projects and situations that we've dealt with in Thompson Creek. I also shared earlier briefly in the committee meeting with that, not to get off track here.
No, that's-
Water quality related, I spoke about Weston Fritz and the drone program that we're getting instituted. I believe we're going to go ahead and order one of those sometime here very shortly. The cost is well within our budget, and it's the importance of it just came to light majorly in the past several years with drone technology. We can use this from everything to event-based situations when a Devil's Lake Neighbor Association member calls me or any resident and has a concern about water quality. We've seen stark lines in turbidity coming down from the things in Thompson Creek, so it'd be really nice to be able to document that from there. Furthermore, if we need to go upstream, we can do that because we're FAA registered now with our committee member who has that license.
Yeah, that would be really helpful.
So
In an event like that, you could just follow it right up.
yeah, and you know, everything from that to our pictures from the fishing derby to just our general operations, I think that's a piece of equipment that we really need to get in play now, and we fortunately have a committed committee member who is willing to take the time on, because it takes quite a bit of time. He's already spent a couple weeks of studying and licensing and things on his own time to make that happen. So that'll be exciting to see here soon, some of the imagery we get from that. I'm sorry, I'm not skipping ahead this time. I think that's all I've got. The water quality, there's no update. I briefly kind of mentioned all that before. Everything's been in good shape. I've done some shoreline monitoring. Alex has went out with me a couple times as well. Our DOs are in good shape. I've been fighting the water to try and get out to the middle of the lake and sample our field, just because the wind has been blowing up in the afternoon, and the schedule's not allowed me to get that 2-hour window when I can get out there and get done what I need to do. But we'll get those numbers here very shortly from there. The last time I went out was it was only a couple weeks ago, and we were still in great shape. Our winter waters are looking consistent with how they have in the past, about 95% dissolved oxygen on the bottom. pHs look good as well. So.
I had a couple of things that I wrote down from the last meeting, and this kind of goes back to the fishing derby too. We talked about adding wash stations to the agenda as, you know, a new project to take on, which I realize we're not ready to probably take on a new project yet, but just I guess a place marker. And then also we talked about boat launch inspections at the fishing derby. Were we talking about that at the fishing derby, or was that just separate?
I think that was general. That's kind of tied in with the wash stations, and we've done a little bit of research. You know, once again, Alex does a lot of this research on the side for me. There are, 2 or 3 of them in the state?
Yeah, there are 2 or 3 lakes in the state that have actually implemented aquatic invasive species programs. With that, they had to adopt appropriate signage, and they had to add more staff, because you have to actually have full-time staff, and then there's different types of washing stations that you can implement. So something even as simple as a portable washing station, you still have to have certified staff. So you have to pay for classes, surprisingly. You have to pay for monitoring of that station, and then obviously with it being a regulatory issue, then the district would be responsible for monitoring that.
So you can't just have like self-wash stations?
You could, but then there isn't, it would, in the research that I did at least, just having it there, I mean, that is an expensive piece of equipment, a portable station. So you leave yourself at risk by leaving it there for people to use unmonitored, and then who's to say that they're actually going to do it? I think it's all well and good.
I guess I was thinking more longer term of somehow working with the city and the state parks and getting some, you know, a construction project done.
Yeah.
And I think you're right, Tina. I think it's a pretty big type project, and additionally to a lot of the challenges Alex is mentioning, I know for a fact, and I spoke with other people who operate them, there's an effluent requirement. Things have to be required in the catch basin because there might be an FOG separator for boat engine oil. You wash off the outside of a boat, but it has to be treated and separated and monitored and hazmat trucked off. And it's not quite as rudimentary as I thought it was going to be initially having the conversation. I'm not saying we shouldn't do it. It's not something we shouldn't look at.
I'm just
It's
wondering
a lot of
with
resources.
as big a deal as invasive species are becoming, if there's, grant money out there or.
There's ISC, there's invasive species councils and
And if
things
we,
like that.
I mean, I'm
that
not
have
sure it's
grants.
something that we could do, but if we could partner with city parks and partner with state parks and work together with them to come up with a plan, because I'm assuming it's a concern of theirs as
Yeah.
well. If not, it should be.
No, I agree. I think that's the right way to go. And with state parks, especially having brown bear being our biggest one with all the boating and very popular, maybe contact Janie Lascano, who's the parks director over there now in our area, and see if they're interested in doing that. We definitely would be a stakeholder in something like that if.
Yeah, and maybe talk to David Gomberg or somebody about, what is available, if anything, statewide and maybe federally as well.
Yeah. I mean, we've really set the stage by doing, keeping our accurate monitoring and putting our resources towards that. And we know exactly where this is growing and when it's growing. We don't have to wait 5 years from now when it's a huge problem. So even though some of these solutions are also very big, at least we have them on the table.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I will follow up with Parks Department and see if there's some bigger program we get going, something with stakeholders.
Saltoncy outside of Palm Springs in California.
There's a movie about that.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah.
And anyhow, I know that our lake isn't on the verge of that, but it just made me.
I have measured the salinity. Sleep well. It's not that high.
Well, but just even the bacteria is, one of the things that,
Yeah.
and, runoff and invasive species, they had it all. And so.
And really, so many waterways now are dealing with these same problems. We're actually in really good shape compared to a lot of these places I've
Right.
seen in some of these bigger projects through conferences and, reservoirs throughout the country and even world that just, wow.
I guess, I want to make sure that, yes, we're promoting the lake and we're doing things to get more people on the lake, but we're not shooting ourselves in the foot
Certainly.
by doing that. So
and
being as proactive as we can about keeping it clean.
yeah, and I think that moving forward and what we've seen even these past couple of years from the work that we've put in and the work and decisions, the board and policies that have been made is that we've seen a lot more people come to the table with the lake.
Well, and
so
isn't it the case at some of the lakes? I know, like a lot of state parks. I think Detroit Lake is one of them. You have to pay a launch fee.
correct.
Like you can't just go like to Brown Bear and
Generally.
put your boat in and out.
Yeah.
And so maybe
Well, and that
not a
could.
fan of taxes and fees generally, but
But if the state doesn't have money, and that seems to be an issue with some of these larger projects, they don't have
a
the funding, if we could
$2 launch
offset.
fee to help offset a wash station.
For sure.
And signage and, an education plan may not be a bad.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is our concern. It's those points. It's Holmes Road. It's Brown Bear. It's the places that people who take a boat to 10 Mile, take a boat, up the road to Ekman, take a boat down here to Devil's Lake and drop it in. May or may not hose it off. And guess what? There's no boat wash stations really in our state. So even if they wanted to, what are you going to do?
Right.
Our residents. We don't worry about them so much. Their boats generally here in the lake. It's in their boathouse. It's on their boat lift. It's it's native for all
Yeah.
words that you can come up with. But yeah,
Okay. And then we talked about putting a 1-year post aeration project up on the website. Did we do that?
I thought we did. I don't know if it went up on the website, but I know we did an AAR on the after action report on the aeration that Tom had actually put together last couple months ago.
Okay.
I can send that back out, or we can get something out, especially now. I was discussing that earlier in the committee meeting as well.
I mean, just, it doesn't have to be anything, you know, too fancy, but I think, you know, a table of, here's what, you know, our dissolved oxygen was and our sketchy.
Well, and actually just that, and I have not put it out. Alex did one of those that's a really nice brief that had our basic, just very basic temperature versus DO
Right, I
graphs.
think I saw that in
Actually,
an
good
email,
summary.
but I think it would be great if we
Get that out?
got that, you know, out in the paper or on our website, you know,
Sure.
so people understand, you know, here's where we were, here we are a year later. And, I mean, I think everybody knows it because people are happy with the condition of the lake, but I'm kind of a numbers person, and so.
You want to see those percentages?
Yeah.
So I've been enjoying them this last year, and I can't wait to go out this second year and see what that's done, so.
I think that's all I have. Anybody else?
We had just under new business, the board planning work session we're trying to get together. We're going to work on the board and management, 3 to 5 year goal for the district. You know, where do we go from here? We've had these really good wins and successes with a lot of our equipment and program and policies, and we really want to build on that. I have a doodle poll that's going to be going out.
Oh,
Eric
good
is putting it
idea.
out for the whole month of April. I think that's a lot easier way for everyone to
That
kind of
is a
get
really
to
good
it. So everyone will have 15 or 20 choices, get into there for each day, all weekdays, and get that together. So that'll be our next thing. Hopefully in April, we will bring the board together and have that discussion as well for some longer term planning.
Well, since track season was just canceled, my weekends have opened.
Everyone's schedule has been opened up, for better or worse.
Okay, good. All right. You just want to start at your end, and if somebody has something, we can.
Sure. Josh, I just was going to ask you to look into my status on the budget committee. I'm willing to, but I don't know whether I'm just a budget committee member or if I'm a
Well, you have
board
automatically
representative,
signed up.
Or
You
you
were a-
just tell me what
You're
you
a
want me to
board
do.
and budget committee member. So what we have is 5 board members, and we'll have 5 budget committee members. So that is, and I'm glad you brought that up because that's something I forgot to put in. I am looking at filling, I believe I'll need 2 budget committee members with Mitch coming onto the board. I'm going to go through and make sure everybody, I haven't heard back from a couple of emails. Generally, I did this year, send out an email. But I haven't heard back from everybody on that.
Well,
so.
for all those listening, I can tell you that there is just really no opportunity more exciting in Lincoln City than to perform on the budget committee for the water
Most of our very committed budget committee members are actually out there and
Yeah.
have either verbally or otherwise assumed they were going to be involved. But I will be putting that roster together completely. I'll get it out to everyone to make absolutely certain we have that all filled out, and that'll be coming up here very shortly in April as well to do a budget committee meeting, which generally has been working out pretty well. Hopefully I can get it timed out for April to have it right before the board meeting, if that's agreeable to everyone. It's kind of tough to get everybody together several days a week when everyone's moving around. So
I don't have anything.
Bill?
I just had an update yesterday from John Tucci, and we're going to be getting some parts for the aerator from Italy.
ooh,
Oh.
And I don't know exactly when they were going to ship them, but supposedly he's made contact with them, and they're on their way.
Okay,
Porsche or
Maybe.
Porsche.
Yeah,
cool.
that's the only thing I have.
They just
Maybe.
closed the border from
Yeah, they're supposed to go
Europe.
there.
So
But
Yeah.
not for commerce.
Yeah, but I don't know. Once again, here we are with the
That's
virus.
right.
Are we going to get our electric motor
I just
parts
heard on the news tonight
or
that
not?
commerce is open.
Okay.
For Italy?
For, yeah, any of the closed borders is only for humans, not commerce. All right, I don't have anything else, so anybody have anything to say even though you didn't? Yep, come on up.
Mark Christie, just representing the Devils Lake Neighborhood Association. Wanted to first congratulate Mitch. Couldn't be a better person taking over for Kent, and he will do a fantastic job. So congratulations on your swearing in. And on behalf of the Neighborhood Association, I wasn't here at the last board meeting, but I happened to watch the entire board meeting online, and we appreciate Tina and the board, their generous donation to the fireworks display, which mind everybody, is still going on January, not January, it's going to be in July.
We're
really.
postponing until
July
January,
3rd,
just to be safe.
And we are not planning on canceling that. So we're excited about that. We've got a good chunk of the funds contributed for that. We're looking at about $13,000 that the Neighborhood Association will expend for that. We still would love your donation. If you go to dlakeoregon.com and hit the donate button, I believe there's a fireworks link. We would really appreciate that donation. And then on a secondary note, Josh talked about the fishing derby, and the Neighborhood Association is proud to be a bronze sponsor. Dropped that check off to Josh a couple weeks ago, so we're excited to be a participant in a great first annual event for that. And then also talking, I know you spoke about this in the board meeting last month. I was encouraged to file, I did it personally, but this would be on behalf of the lake, a complaint to DEQ on the turbidity in coming down from Thompson Creek. And I did follow that email up with a email to, or that complaint up with an email to David from the DEQ, who has been very responsive in the past and last year when this issue came up. Got one response back, but it's been about, I'm going to say, month and a half, and still haven't gotten any information back. So I would ask Josh, I will follow up, but I'd ask Josh that on the district standpoint that they follow up and find out what's going on with that complaint, because it is a little bit disconcerting that I haven't got anything back from anyone on the complaint that was filed. So
I attended the Lincoln City Sustainability Committee meeting 2 weeks ago, and the presentation was from one of our city councilors on sustainable gardening, or landscaping, not necessarily gardening. And one of the things that they were talking about, it's a program that she actually put together. I don't know if she worked for the city of Portland, but when she lived in Portland, and it was adopted by the city of Portland. And one of the ways that they were able to make it successful was working with neighborhood associations. And I'm not on the sustainability committee, and they run it very tightly, and so you're not really allowed to speak unless you're on the committee. But my thought is what better neighborhood association than the Devil's Lake Neighborhood Association to help or adopt or try to partner with something like that, because it's simple stuff that we've always talked about, pesticides and herbicides, and then native stuff, things that do better with water, without water, so on and so forth. And her plan would need to be adjusted to fit coastal stuff, but it just made me realize that I remember we tried to get recognized by the city of Lincoln City as a legitimate neighborhood association.
probably time to do that again.
And so, yeah, I was thinking that with, with that type of thing coming up, it would be cool to be recognized and to be able to partner with, programs like that, because, when it comes to the benefit of, good landscaping, nothing benefits better than the lake. And so.
No, and that's
anyhow.
good, and I think that's a good reminder. I'll reach out to Dick just to talk about, seeing if we can't get on the agenda to get approved as a recognized neighborhood association in the Lincoln City, Lincoln County area. I think that the timing would be appropriate with that, and I think our relationship with what we've all collectively forged with the city is much improved over the last number of years than it had been in the
for
past.
sure,
So
yeah.
I think that would be good. Anyway, keep doing a great job.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I just want to thank Mitch for applying for the job and welcome.
You're welcome.
Yeah, welcome,
Thank
Mitch.
you,
It's great to
Dana.
have you. All right, with that, I guess we are adjourned.